In the previous demos, we went through an end-to-end small application of working with classes and objects. We defined a class called employee, we instantiated that class, we made use of different types of constructors, we had member variables which we set to public and private, and we also defined getter and setter methods. It turns out that there are actually a lot of nuances, a lot of fine points associated with each of these steps. So we will now go back and rerun through some of these steps in a lot more detail. We start with a new blank project called classes. This has a namespace called constructors. Let's go ahead and add a new class into this constructors namespace. And in this little class, we will concentrate only on the different aspects of defining and using constructors. So we call this class employee, and this once again is very similar to the employee class we had all along. It inherits from java.lang.object, and we don't need a main method. We'll define that in a separate class called main.java. Now we have the employee.java class in a package called constructors. Let's go ahead and add in a bunch of member variables. This time around, we start with the member variables being private. So the access modifier is private. The types as well as the variable names of the member variables have to follow the access modifier. Right now, the compiler shows a little warning sign next to each of the member variable definitions. That's simply because those variables are not used. It's always a good idea to pay attention to warnings from the IDE or from the compiler, but in this case, these warnings are not any cause for concern. But there's one interesting bit about the menu options which we see here. Notice the option which asks us whether we'd like to create a getter and a setter for this member variable. This can save us a lot of typing, so we should always try and make use of the Eclipse or the IntelliJ IDE's menus to create getter and setter methods for us. One small difference between the employee class as it's been defined now and as we had defined it previously is that we now have a fourth member variable. This is the performance score. This is defined on line 10 and this is of type float. In any case, that's up ahead. Let's now turn our attention to the main class. So we right click on our namespace and add a new main class in there. This one does indeed need to have the public static void main stub method. So we check that checkbox and hit finish. In the main method, we go ahead and get rid of the auto-generated comment and type in a bit of our